Welcome to the Empowering Perspective Podcast. My name is Dwayne Dwyer, and I am honored today to talk about something that is really important in our community. As you guys know, we're closing out Mental Health Month. And to kind of help me with this conversation, I have a very knowledgeable, very intelligent, very smart, and just wise all-around person who is going to help us with this discussion. And with that being said, I would like to introduce Miss Candace Thompson. Candace, welcome to today's conversation.
Thank you so much. It is definitely a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's our pleasure to have you. So if you don't mind, just kind of like introduce yourself to, who everybody is. Just let them know who Candace Thompson really is.
Yes. So I am an author. I am an artist. I am an entrepreneur. And I like to call myself just an all-around Renaissance woman. I love all things creative, things that we can kind of take parts of ourselves and give out to the world. And I like to help other people unlock that within them.
That's awesome. I love that description of Renaissance woman, right? So this is good. I like it. And, just talking with you before, you just kind of, I didn't say it, but you kind of shot me with a jolt of inspiration just going through some of these things that we're going to talk about. And I so love it because I'm really excited to get into it. So let's not keep them waiting, right? So let's kind of go into like, what was your introduction when it comes down to mental health?
So, I have a degree in psychology. And so I started USC back in 2004 and I fell in love with it. My Psych 101 teacher was an amazing professor who really introduced me to think about this. When you first think about psychology, most people think, you got to sit on the couch. It's just like the shrink kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like we're progressive now, so we have a little more awareness about it. But at that time, that's all I could think of is, to go into psychology, you had to be like, some kind of like shrink or a therapist.
Yeah.
But not knowing there were so many other ways that you could impact people or even just, have an awareness for yourself,
right,
and how to work through things. So when I got that introduction, I took every single course that professor specifically offered. And it came to, really like, you talk with your friends and everybody gets together. Oh, I've been going through this, or, whether it's life stuff, relationship, jobs. And I noticed like a lot of people start to come to me.
Yeah.
And I just seem to have answers. But it's more about listening to people than it is about talking to them. So I found like that was like my real big introduction. It was something that's kind of when I knew that was something I love to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. And I'm a little jealous, right? Because, during my undergraduate, I wanted to take Psych 101, but every time I went to sign up for it, it was always filled. Yeah. It was the one class that filled up faster than any others. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, that told me that the class itself was really good. So I ended up having to skip 101 and ended up I did 102, 103. So it was like, different echelons of psychology. But I was just so disappointed that I missed the 101 portion. And then, a couple of my friends like, well, you can always go and do a PhD in psychology. I'm like, no, I'm good.
I'm going to pass on that.
I'm going
to
pass on that one.
Yeah.
But this is so good because I like, how you mentioned the fact that some of your friends will come to you and, based upon some of the things that you went through and some of the studies that you've had, you realize that, being a good listener is probably one of the best things that we can do when it comes down to, entertain. I don't want to say entertaining, but just helping people to understand that we can relate to them when it comes down to some of the things that they're going through. So I love that because I kind of went through that as well. I went through friends talking to me about certain things and sitting down and say, hey man, you got a minute? Can I talk to you? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And, for me, I think there was a transition for me because, I was in the Army for 24 years, right? So I went from telling people what to do to I stopped telling people what to do and just kind of listen to what it was they were going through. It was a big difference. So you go from giving advice to realizing that I'm just not that smart. Sure, I may have a couple of degrees, but that means absolutely nothing. I don't have the answer for every person out there. I know one person who do, and that person does, but I don't. So I'm just a vessel that can actually be used to comfort that person when they're going through said trauma. That to me, that was the big moment for me. Yeah. Just realizing that, you got two ears and one mouth. Spend more time listening to you or talking, and then people want to talk to you even more. So this is good.
It's validation that people are looking for.
Right.
people want to be understood. And people want to know that, like you said, someone can relate. And it's not necessarily that they're looking for answers. Most people just want to vent. Truth be told, most people just want to vent. They don't really want answers.
Right.
They just want somebody to hear their story, hear their side.
Right.
And at least say, hey, what you're going through is a human experience.
Yeah.
And you are okay to have that human experience. And I think that's what most people fail to realize, is that when someone comes to them, they think they have to have the answer. Now, I am a Virgo, so I am certifiably the fixer of all things.
Yeah.
And so by nature, I want to fix problems. I want to troubleshoot things. And even like going through psychology from a course perspective, like, and my degree is in experimental psychology. So it's not even from a therapy side. I'm a researcher.
Right.
I'm going to get down to how did this happen? Why did it happen? Let's take this sample. Let's look at this. And even as I was getting ready for us to have this conversation and really honing in on, there was a study that I was reading, and that was done at with the National Library of Medicine.
Okay. And
looking at specifically Black women. As a Black woman, I find that that's who I'm going to connect with typically first, right? I mean, we automatically share something in common.
Right.
But in the US alone, and I feel like these numbers are actually lower because, again, this is only coming from a specific sample,
right,
and who is going to disclose,
right,
or who has been diagnosed. But Black women, 25% of Black women suffer from anxiety. And then another 16% suffer from depression. And that's not including if they suffer from both.
Yeah.
And so when you think about it, anxiety is living in the future. Depression is living in the past.
Right.
And most often when somebody comes to you, they just want you to be present.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're already doing the back and forth themselves. So they just want somebody to be present with them.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've learned. And what I try to bring to people is just, hey, this is the moment of being present.
There you go. I love it. I love it. So if you're listening, catch what she said, right? Anxiety is living in the future. You are making up in your mind about something that can potentially happen. And when you really stop and look at the percentages of that actually coming to reality, they're really low. They're really low. But you're doing that based upon something that happened in the past, depression. So based upon your previous previous experiences or something someone shared with you or whatever, like you will fill in the blanks of what's not there. And then you'll come up with something, and then you will kind of put yourself through a mental cycle of, I call it a mental cycle of confusion, because that's what we do. And it can be a bit frustrating in that aspect. Just understanding the difference between anxiety, depression, and man, see, you know what? You're going to get me started on a topic, and we're just going to go on and on and on.
Roll.
I love it.
It's a spiral, and that's what a lot of us go through. And because think about, energy is cyclical, right? Think about the rise of the moon, the sun, everything we do is vibrational, is cyclical. And so our emotions are no different. And so, like I said, that idea of validating and being present in the moment is understanding that you can kind of sway which way that cycle is going to go.
That's right.
And once we realize how powerful our minds really are, because if we can get to a point of anxiety, I feel like honestly, people with anxiety are probably some of the most powerful people, because you have created an alternate reality for yourself.
Right.
But if you can hone in on that skill, right, what you may think as a crutch, if you can actually hone in on it as a skill, you have the possibility to unlock any and everything you want in your life.
Absolutely.
You can create that reality, be like, oh, this new job gonna fall out the sky.
I love it.
I'm so nervous. Right? Let's be nervous about that. Let's be nervous about the possibilities in a positive way, but our brain automatically takes us to the negative. And I think with the work that I do, that's always my goal, is to show people, and I know we're going to get into this, but we come from a blank canvas and you've got possibility.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to show you how you can use that positively versus negatively.
Absolutely. I love this. I love this. See, so I'm telling you right now, I'm going to need you to clear a spot every month on your calendar for me, because you're saying some things, and anybody who knows me, they knows like a lot of the words that you're using right now, like energy, vibration, things of that nature. That's like my common language. I talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
And creativity, because I promise you, I was on the phone maybe about 2 hours ago talking to a friend of mine, and I'm like, you can create. Like, you have to understand what it is that you want, but you can create that outcome. You just need to understand that. And you're 100% correct, because our brains are wired for safety. So
Hmm.
when it comes down to risk taking, we will automatically default back to our own previous, position because that's safe. We understand what that is. We call
Yeah.
it the comfort zone. But
Hmm.
if you take a risk and go outside of that and recreate your comfort zone in something else, well, into the unknown. So recreate your comfort zone in a space that we call the unknown, then the outcome can be so much different. So you mentioned something a few seconds ago. You said a blank canvas. Now I don't wanna tell it. It's your story to tell. So tell us what you meant by the blank canvas and then kind of like paint that picture for us and give us the inspiration behind it too.
All right, no pun intended there, right?
I
Paint
know,
that.
right?
But so as I told you guys, I am an artist. So I have an art studio out in Lexington. But about a little over 4 years ago, actually, right about now, uh, 5 years. Well, this is 2017. That year, I got really sick. I actually was diagnosed with jaundice, and I was going through a lot. What financially, emotionally, I was 30, a little over 30 years old. So I was about 31 at the time, and I had to move in with my parents, and so like relinquishing a lot of freedom,
Yeah,
just things, just life, and just honoring where I was in the moment.
yeah,
But my mom, like once I got sick, my mom was like, "You're not sitting around this house moping and carrying on. You're not gonna do it. So what we're gonna do is my birthday is coming up. There is this paint and sip, and paint and sips at the time were a very new concept to Columbia specifically. So I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. So they were very new at the time, and we went, and it was a sea turtle. My mom loves sea turtles. Now, at this point, I have jaundice, so my skin looks like leather.
mm,
Like it is, and I mean, it's all juicy now, but it looked like leather at this point. And like just extremely dry, like dry patches everywhere. My eyes were the color of highlighters, like this yellow behind me.
yeah,
My eyes were like literally that color.
mm,
And my doctors couldn't tell me what was going on. I became like a human pincushion for months, going in and out of doctors, in and out of different procedures and testing, and they had no answers. And so it was frustrating because, well, I mean, we all like to have a certain level of aesthetic to ourselves. And
right,
I didn't see that anymore. I didn't see that when I looked in the mirror. And so my mom's like, "Hey, we're going to go out. We're going to go to this paint and sip." And I'm like, "I don't want to be around people. I don't want to be anywhere," because I was living in that depression, right? I was in a space of who I was months ago. I'm no longer that person.
right,
I don't like who I am. I don't want to be around people. I don't want to be anywhere. I didn't want to be in front of cameras. I didn't want people taking pictures, none of that. But I went because, well, my mom, is her birthday and she made me, right? But I got there, and the moment I sat down in front of this blank canvas, there was nothing on it. The moment I sat down in front of this blank canvas, everything else seemed to melt away.
mm,
But the only thing I could focus on was how am I going to take this blank canvas and turn it into this picture that this person wants me to paint. Now, at that point in time, I did not consider myself an artist by any means. Now, I've doodled, like, you kind of draw around, just because.
yeah,
But I didn't consider myself an artist in any way, shape, or form. And the amount of fun I had at that event,
mm,
I look back, the pictures, the smile that is on my face in that moment,
yeah,
regardless of what I looked like, was so pure
yeah,
and so organic that I knew, okay, I have to stick around this realm as long as I possibly can. This art took me out of a space that I didn't think I could come out of,
yeah,
and it had nothing to do with anybody else but me, my brushes, and that canvas. And so when I teach classes now, I took that idea. I actually ended up working for that company for a while. And I took that idea and moved it to, if I didn't want to leave my house, instead of going to restaurants or something like that, maybe there are other people who, whether it's a physical ailment, mental thing, or they just don't want to. Maybe there's other people who don't want to leave their house either, but need to experience this.
yeah,
And that's how I started my company that November. Now I started a mobile company. I ain't have a car.
wow,
So I was taking Ubers, Lyfts. I was getting rides from people. My mom would sometimes, she'd pack up my couple little boxes of supplies and drop me off or wherever somebody had booked an event. And it just kind of grew from there to a point now, even through a pandemic, we have an entire brick and mortar studio front.
wow,
But because I stayed true to the mission,
mm,
it's always been about who can I help transform? Who can I give a blank canvas to and show them how they can, with just their brushes and their paint, create something, whether it's perfect or not. That's not the point. It's the experience that you get in that moment. I still have that turtle painting hanging up in my house now.
really,
From those years ago, I still have that same turtle painting hanging up, and it's right as I walk out of the door because it
mm,
is always a reminder to me of where I've been and where I'm going.
mm.
So
Man, I mean, you said so much. I don't even know where to begin. Like, when I'm listening to this entire story, and I can just understand because, you made the mention of the aesthetics, the outward appearance, and sometimes, and I'm sure everybody can relate to this, we're our own worst critics about our appearance.
Yeah.
But when you understand that you're dealing with the thing, it exacerbates in your mind. It just really expands, and you don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to see anybody. You don't want anybody to see you. I don't know if what is it, the grocery delivery.
Instacart.
Instacart, yes. I don't know if Instacart was a thing back then.
It was.
But if it was, that's how I'll be buying all my groceries. Like literally, this is monumental, and I don't think men really understand the gravity of that compared to other women, because I know women really grasp that. Men sometimes, especially this day and age, we'll walk out the house with slides and a t-shirt and we're good to go.
But like, I'm out.
Exactly, right? But it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And so when you look at, because we just kind of talked about it, depression, right? When you look at that degree of depression that you was experiencing at that particular point in time, just being able to go from, experiencing that and in a blink of an eye,
Yeah.
experiencing something different, feeling something different inside to where you were liberated. And then you grasped that moment and ran with it. You didn't let it go. And I think that's the key, that you didn't let that feeling go. See, a lot of times we do it in reverse. We'll go through a trauma and then we hold on to the feeling that we're experiencing the trauma. And then that becomes the thing that we use to create going forward. But you did it the right way. See, you grabbed hold to the feeling that you experienced outside of the trauma, the liberating feeling, the one that says, hey, I'm still here, I'm still alive, and I got a lot to be thankful for. And then that feeling that you grabbed hold to, you held on to it. And that's the thing that helped you, going forward. And look at you now.
Yeah. And you have to. And I think, like, you made a really good point that I think sometimes people get into that space where the trauma happens and they almost disassociate so that they can become comfortable in the trauma.
Right.
And what they're really holding on to is not the trauma, it's the dissociation.
Right.
That they're clinging to.
Yeah.
The safe space they've created within this trauma. But when you find that moment where something feels even just a little bit better, it's almost like this high you chase, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that was just a little bit better.
Yeah.
How do I keep that? How do I get that again?
Yeah.
And it's something to this day. It's funny because, entrepreneurship is not an easy road. There's no straight line. No. It is hills, it is valleys. It's a beautiful journey if you accept it. But there are some days where I am so frustrated, just business-wise, because you're always thinking, it's like you're never off, right? I quit a 9 to 5 so that I didn't have to work 9 to 5, and well, now I work way more than 9 to 5.
9 to 9, right?
Right. But even that, the brain doesn't shut off.
No,
so
it doesn't.
Always, as a creator, like I said, as an author and an artist, it's one of the two that's happening. I'm either writing or I'm drawing or I'm painting or something. So they all coincide. But even in those moments, days where I'm the most frustrated with my business as an artist, my reprieve is to go paint. So all I'm doing is really, reinforcing what my business is, but I'm able to look at it from a personal perspective versus a business perspective.
Wow.
I'm going to create, because this is what I feel like painting today. Like this behind me, this was one day that I was just like, nope, we're going to paint.
Yeah.
Whatever the brush does is what it's going to do, but every piece has a story, and it's not for it to be for anyone else, because we create that gallery ourselves.
Yeah. You know what I just heard? I heard you kind of, you in your mind, and I want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong, right? Instead of, chasing the model that somebody else created for you, or the model that society said that you had to follow, or, what your parents said you had to do when you grew up, you just decided to be. That's what I heard. Like, I'm going to be the best version of Candace that I can be.
Yeah.
And as time progresses, because you made mention, you say even if it's just a little bit better. For me, I call that little bit better possibility.
Yeah.
And so when possibilities are revealed to you at each level, you move in that direction.
Hmm.
And so today I'm painting on the canvas. Tomorrow I'm have a studio to where I'm helping other people paint on the canvas.
Hmm.
The next day I may be teaching other people to create studios to help. You see what I'm saying? It
Right.
just grows and grows and grows.
Right.
And the only person who shuts that off is you.
That's it.